Now let's shift to another form of creativity that has taken over the modern world, photography. A year ago, we introduced the all-new Lightroom CC, a modern photography system that works across desktop, mobile, and the web, taking full advantage of the cloud. The response has been tremendous. Photographers, both professionals and hobbyists, love the ability to access all of their photos anywhere, make edits on the go, and then easily share their work. And so we've spent the last year making Lightroom CC even more powerful, and here to show you what's new in Lightroom is my colleague, Bryan O'Neill Hughes. Bryan.
Thank you, Scott. Hello, everyone. You know, the whole reason I got into photography is because I couldn't draw or paint. But I'll tell you, I've been spending some time in Gemini lately, and when I use the oil paint, just for a minute, I feel like Kyle Webster. Briefly. All right, let's get back to photography. As Scott said, the teams have been incredibly busy. Over the course of the last year, they've been working hard to make the entire system faster, smarter, and more powerful. And in just a couple minutes, I want to show you just some of what they've been doing. So let's start on the iPad Pro. And this is a device that I love because I can put it in my camera bag and take Lightroom with me everywhere my camera goes. And I can access all of my images. That's really the first thing to know here. I can get to my stuff. My iPhone shots, the shots off my Sony a7R III, Leica Q. I can always get to my images. All right, let's talk about editing and the speed of editing, because this has gotten so much faster. If I tap Auto, this is now Sensei enabled. I'm just going to tap one button, and it automatically and dynamically adjusts my image. Looks great. All of those sliders have moved immediately. Now, if I want to change how it looks, of course I have all sorts of sliders and all sorts of things that I can do, but I've got these really powerful profiles as well. Now, Lightroom has always had profiles. This is how it interprets color. And traditionally, they've mimicked some of the profiles in your camera. What's different now is that I have artistic profiles that dramatically change the image in a way that's really impactful. So I can come through here, and these look so great. I can tell you guys, a long time ago, I wrote a couple books on black and white using Lightroom and Photoshop. I could condense those books into a sentence or two. Open Lightroom, open an image, hit Auto, and use one of these black and white profiles, and you'd be great. Really is that good. OK, so let's do a couple more things to that. Add another sentence to my book. I'm going to pull in clarity, a bit of dehaze, and a little bit of vignette. So at this point, I've done a few different things, and I don't want to have to redo them later. Well, one of the things I can do now is create my own user-generated preset. And just like my images and just like my edits, those travel with them. Whatever device I'm on, I can get to my presets, I can get to my images. That's a huge time saver. All right, so let's go with a little more serious editing here, something even trickier. This is a 42 megapixel image off of the Sony a7R III. And again, I'm going to start with Auto. Great. Open up the shadows a little bit. OK, looking better. Now I'm going to just use that dehaze tool, and it cuts through all that atmospheric haze. But there is one problem here. I have this jet trail. It was a 30-second exposure, and I have a streak of light across the sky that I didn't see. Well, traditionally, I'd go over to the desktop, I'd pass this file to Photoshop, I'd heal it out. Now I can do that on the iPad. So I've got my spot healing brush here, and I'm simply going to touch on the screen, drag my finger across, and magically remove that. Let's think about that for a second. 42 megapixel raw file, spot healing non-destructively on an iPad. Thank you. I think that's super cool. I've wanted that since the iPad came out, and I'm thrilled that I can do that. All right, one more example here. Again, Auto, you see me use this every time. Does a great job. I love the tonality of that. My problem with this image is that I didn't have an expensive tilt shift lens, and I didn't have a 50-foot tall ladder. And the perspective is just a little weird. What I want is those geometry controls that I love on the desktop. Well, I've got them. And even though there are a lot of sliders, I'm going to let the software do the work, come into Upright here, and just hit Auto, right? Fixed. Looks great. So I could spend a lot more time here. I would love to. But that really quickly was Lightroom CC on the iPad. Let's move over to a smaller screen now, and let's look at it at this Samsung Android device. And what you're going to find here is that just because I have a smaller screen does not mean that I've lost any of my power. So the first thing to note is that not only are my images there, but they're synced. They look like they looked on the last device. Black and white image, the night sky, the building that I just stood up. But as I mentioned, I haven't lost any power. So things like that smart Sensei Auto work great. Those color profiles that we talked about. Maybe I want an artistic profile to change the color. Looks great. Maybe I want to leverage geometry, that powerful stuff where we stood up the image. I can do that right there as well. Give that just a moment to stand up. Great. And if there's a distracting element in this image, as there is here, even those powerful healing tools are available to me right there. So just because I have a smaller screen doesn't mean I've lost any power. OK. So that was Lightroom on the Android. Let's look at Lightroom somewhere that you're probably not used to thinking about it, which is on the web. I'm going to launch my web browser, and we're going to go to lightroom.adobe.com. And that's a way for me to quickly get to my images wherever I am. All right, so I'm just going to launch my web browser. I'm signed in to lightroom.adobe.com. Any of you using Lightroom, you can do this and get to your images anywhere. Wherever you are, all you need is the web. There they are, all of the ones we were just editing. I've got 37 photos here. And if I want to share those, I could send a link. People could download the files. They could collaborate, give me feedback. But I want to share less of them. I think we can all agree there's too many pictures of my dog up there. So I'm going to leverage a tech preview that all of you have available to you called Best Photos. And what Best Photos does is it makes a guess about what less images would look like based on content, edits, composition. And right out of the gates, it knew what we all guessed is, yes, there are too many pictures of that dog. But let's change our criteria here a bit. Let's ask for fewer images, ignore my ratings, and I'd like to see more people. Well, Sensei's got both of my boys, my wife, my puppy, even my old truck there. So I'm very happy there. No one's going to be offended. At this point, I want to share that. And when I share it, I could again send a link, could create an album, or I could leverage the power of Adobe Portfolio, which all of you have access to. You can build your own beautiful custom website in just a few minutes. Here's what that looks like. Really easy to do that. Really, really pleased with that way of sharing things. So again, we looked at a Lightroom CC on the iPad Pro. We looked at it on the Samsung Android phone. We looked at it on the web. It is a complete system. You can use it on Windows and Mac desktop. And if you have an Apple TV, you can even view your images there. So in closing, this is for everyone. Everyone can use this because Lightroom does a lot of the work for you, and you can use it absolutely anywhere. So I hope you guys try it and love it. Thank you very much for your time.
So thanks, Bryan. Lightroom is an example of where all Creative Cloud applications are going. It is an app that's equally powerful on your desktop, your tablet, your phone, and on the web, as Bryan described. It takes full advantage of Adobe Sensei to simplify these complex, time-consuming tasks like editing multiple photos or correcting geometry. And it uses the power of the cloud to not only keep all of your photos at your fingertips, but your editing presets and profiles as well.